talking about Netflix's acquisitions, and could we see Netflix make a bid to buy a big gaming publisher or even a smaller scale gaming publisher in 2024? Now, for those who don't know, over the last few years, the talk of gaming acquisitions has been really big, with tons of studios getting acquired, and Microsoft, for example, acquiring Activision Blizzard and ZeniMax Media, which included Bethesda. Now, why this is a big deal is because Netflix is quite a big company. Well, I say big, they're worth a lot of money. So could we see Netflix enter the arena and actually, make a bid to acquire some like big name publisher? Well, I want to go over some points that I think are important to this video. But before we get into that, guys, make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff. Let me know what you think about this, because obviously I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Also, check out the link in the description to Cloud Dosage News, which is where I've got an article about this subject. So please check that out as well. So, throughout Netflix's history, they've made 10 acquisitions, right? And one investment. Those acquisitions might seem like a bit of a surprise to some people. They've acquired one animation studio in Animal Logic. They've acquired 4 game studios that include Spry Fox Games, Night School Studio, Next Games, and Boss Fight Entertainment. They acquired the Roald Dahl Story Company and all the library of Roald Dahl, right? All the written works of Roald Dahl, they're now owned by Netflix. They also acquired the comic book publisher Millarworld. They acquired the visual effects company known as Scanline VFX. They also acquired, well, I say acquired, they've got an investment in the studio Broken Bones Productions, which is the studio by the creators of Black Mirror. Now, why is this relevant? Well, I do think that people aren't going to realize this, but these acquisitions weren't major acquisitions. They weren't like multi-billion-dollar acquisitions. Netflix's biggest acquisition is rumored to be the Roald Dahl company, which apparently cost them about $700 million. However, because it was a privately held company, we don't actually know how much they paid for the Roald Dahl Story Company. We don't know the price they paid for many of these acquisitions. These acquisitions, because Netflix paid such small sums for them, they didn't have to disclose them. The only one we know they priced for is Next Games, which was rumored to be about $72 million, which to me, not bad for what you got. Like, this talent in the studio who owned a couple of games, I think that was a good get. But yeah. Likewise, let's look at some examples let's look at an example for a company that they could acquire, right, and they could easily afford. That would be a company like, say, Sega. Sega's a publisher that's already released games on Netflix. They've released 2 games currently, and there's a 3rd game coming later this year. So Sega would be the perfect fit, right? Like, acquire Sega, huge studio, huge publisher with tons of beloved IPs. Why wouldn't you? Here's the issue. Sega itself would cost a minimum $4 billion because it's a publicly traded company. Because it's publicly traded as well, investors would have to vote on whether or not they acquire it, whether or not it is sold. And I don't see a lot of investors wanting to sell Sega. Sega is an iconic brand that is known by so many gamers across the world. I don't see it being up for sale. Likewise, companies like Microsoft have offered to buy Sega, and they got turned down. And Microsoft has a lot more money than Netflix. For example, for those who want to do the math, Sega would cost about $4 billion minimum. Netflix currently has a cash reserves of $7.86 billion. So yes, they could easily afford to buy a Sega, but that would also lead them to spending a large majority of their excess capital, which would mean that if they had a few bad years, it would lead to Netflix getting into a lot of debt. They wouldn't be able to remain as competitive on pricing as other companies, and they would also need to sort of scale back their businesses, which I don't see Netflix wanting to do. I see Netflix wanting to focus more on trying to expand its brands and IP. I don't see them wanting to shift away from that and focus more on smaller scale projects, because obviously they wouldn't have the money to do it if this all happened. Now, do I think it's likely that Netflix will buy a publisher? I think there's a possibility. There are several smaller scale indie publishers on the market which could easily be picked up by Netflix, and Netflix would still have billions of dollars left over from such an acquisition. However, I do gotta admit, I don't know if Netflix has a strategy to acquire stuff, because Netflix has always historically said that they are builders rather than buyers. So to me, that just kind of screamed that they're not really interested in making these big acquisitions. And sure, you could always make Netflix might make a big play to show hey, we are in gaming, we are here, we are ready to fight. But most of the game publishers that would sort of really be like a standout have already been acquired. You know, I don't see Netflix being able to acquire something like Take-Two or EA, and alongside Activision and Bethesda already being owned, someone else, and Zynga being another one which was brought up. I don't really know who Netflix could really acquire, like besides like Sega or Ubisoft. But then again, those companies are very unlikely due to how expensive it costs Netflix to actually acquire them, and I don't see it happening. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think we will see Netflix acquire a large game publisher in 2024? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I am genuinely curious on what you have to say, so please, let me know. Let's start a conversation. And like I said, guys, please do check out Cloud Dosage News. Great team, great site. I love working for them, so please check out the articles on Cloud Dosage News. I'll leave a link in the description to all my work on Cloud Dosage News, and obviously check out other people's work on there as well. You know, it's all greatly appreciated. Anyway, guys, I've been NG, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.